Alright, so welcome to this new video. We're gonna demonstrate how to find the inverse of a matrix type 3 rows times 3 columns. So we've got 3 rows versus 3 columns. So how are we gonna find the inverse of this matrix? So basically the inverse of a matrix is called the e exponent -1. All right, okay, so usually what we do in order to find the inverse of a matrix, we have a couple theorems to use. For example, let's use the theorem of Gauss. So what the theorem of Gauss said is basically we put the matrix itself 1 1 0 1 2 1 2 3 2, and then we add to this matrix separately by a broken line the identity matrix. So the identity matrix is 1 0 0 0 1 0 0 0 1. All right, so it seems that we have a matrix with 3 rows and 6 columns, 1 2 3 4 5 6. All right, so what we have to do is we need to change this area, the left area, to what we have in the right area. So basically we have to change this matrix into an identity matrix. So okay, how we do that? By doing operations through each line in the matrix. Okay, so for example, how we can do that? We can start by the first row, by the first column. Okay, how are we gonna do that? We fix what we call the diagonal. Okay, so we have to change this number into zeros. Okay, how we do it? So let's look to the line number 2. So the main operation that we have to set here is 1 -1, because we have to set operations within the element in the diagonal. All right, so if we do the line 2 subtracted from the line 1, we will get here a result of 0. Okay, so because 1 -1 is 0. So for the third line, we're gonna do line 3 negative. We cannot do negative line 1 because 2 -1 is 1, but we need a 0 here. What we have to do is 2 -2 times 1, which will be a 0. So it's the line 3 -2 times line 1. Okay, we get in the result the following. Okay, so the first line, or the line number 1, will remain the same. Okay, 1 1 0 1 0 0. Okay, the second line, it will be equal to line 2 negative line 1. Okay, let's do it. 1 -1 is 0, 2 -1 is 1, 1 -0 is 1, 0 -1 is -1. Okay, let's do this. All right, 1 -0 is 1, 0 -0 is 0. Okay, let's jump to the line 3. 2 -2 times 1 is 0. 3 -2 times 1 is 3 -2, which is 1. 2 negative 2 times 0 is 2, negative 0 is 2. 0 negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. All right, 0 negative 2 times 0 is 0, and then 1 negative 2 times 0 will be 1. Okay, sounds good. So we're done with this column, so we changed it to 1 0 0, which is good. All right, so now let's jump to this column. So the main thing here, we have to change, this is gonna stay the same 1. We have to change this one and this one into zeros. How to do so? Same thing. We're gonna set operations through the line 1 and an operation through the line 3. Okay, so what's the operation will be? So it's 1 negative 1 will be 0, or in 1 negative 1 will be 0. So the line number 1 will be line 1 negative line 2. All right, the line number 3 will be line number 3 negative line number 2. Okay, so after setting up the operations, we're gonna do the calculations. All right, so for the line number 1 will turn into, so 1 negative 1 negative 0 will remain 1. Okay, 1 negative 1 is 0. Okay, and that's the main point of doing this operation, because we need to turn this one into a 0. Okay, all right, 0 negative 1 will be a negative 1. 1, okay, here be careful here. Okay, pay attention. So we've got 1 negative, which is the sign, negative 1. So it's 1 plus 1. Okay, so you have to pay attention to those really small issues, like the sign issues. It might turn like all your work into a disaster, so be careful. So let's say it again. 1 negative 1. Okay, let me write it down here for you. So 1 negative 1 will be a 1 plus 1, which is 2. Okay, so here it's 2. 0 negative 1 is negative 1. 0 negative 0 is 0. So for the line number 2 will remain the same. Okay, 0 1 1 negative 1 1 0. All right, the line number 3. So line number 3 will turn into a line number 3 negative line number 1. So 0 negative 0 is 0. 1 negative 1 is 0. 2 negative 1 is 1. Negative 2 negative 1. Okay, here you go. Negative 2 negative 1. Sorry, yeah. So it will be negative 2 plus 1, which is negative 1. Okay, so we'll have here negative 1. 0 negative 1 is negative 1. 1 negative 0 is 1. All right, so here we go. So we're done with this column. Let's jump to this column. Okay, so in this column we will stick with this one because we need it to be here, and then we have to change those into a zeros. How are we gonna do so? With doing operations into the line number 2 and the line number 1. Okay, so here, in order to change this number to a 0, we have to add 1. Okay, so the line number 1 will be line 1 plus, okay, here be careful, plus line number 3, because negative 1 plus 1 will be 0. Okay, that's what we want. For this line will be 1 negative 1, it's easy, so line number 2 negative, line number 3, okay, which will be a 0. For the line number 3 will remain the same. Okay, so let's do the operations. So normally, when we're gonna stop doing those operations, when this identity matrix will transform to the left area. So once we have the identity matrix in this area here, it is automatically this area will be the inverse of the matrix A. All right. Okay, let's do this operation. We've got here line number 1 plus line number 3. So -1. Okay, let's gonna do it. 1 plus 0 is 1. 0 plus 0 is 0. Okay. -1 plus 1 is 0. 2 plus -1 is 2 -1, which is 1. So we're gonna do the operations. So line number 1 plus line number 3. So the line number 1 will change into 1 plus 0 is 1. 0 plus 0 is 0. -1 plus 1 is 0. 2 plus -1 is 1. -1 plus -1 here is -2. 0 plus 1 is 1. Okay, so for the row number 2, or the line number 2, will change to row number 2 negative row number 3. All right, so 0 -0 is 0. 1 -0 is 1. 1 -1 is 0. -1 -1 is -1 plus 1, which is 0. 1 -1. So same thing. 1 -1 is 1 plus 1, which is 2. Okay. 0 -1 is -1. Here we go. So when we start, we said that the main objective is to change the left side into the identity matrix. So we have to turn this matrix into an identity matrix. So that's why we've been doing those operations through the rows. And as you can see here, that's the last step we can do, because we changed this area into an identity matrix. Here we go. 1 0 0 0 1 0 0 0 1, and then automatically this area will be the inverse of the matrix. So as we can see, basically this is the inverse of the matrix A. All right, you can double check. I hope this explanation was clear, and looking forward to see you in the next video.